Admiral Elena Reyes felt the chill first, an impossible cold seeping through the environmental controls of her bridge. Then the quantum comm array screamed with feedback before falling deathly silent. "Status report," she demanded, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Lieutenant Commander Ishida's fingers danced across holographic displays. "We've lost contact with Titan Observatory." And his voice faltered. "Europa Station just went dark. Mars Colony too." Reyes moved to the tactical station, the old burned scars on her face tightening as she frowned. 15 years since the Unification Wars had left their marks on her body and psyche, and now something far worse loomed. "All outposts beyond Earth's orbit," she murmured. "Simultaneous communication failure isn't possible unless—" The bridge lights flickered and died. For 3 heartbeats, the command deck of the UES Vigilant floated in darkness at the edge of the solar system. When illumination returned, they weren't alone. The hologram materialized without warning, a towering mantis-like being, its exoskeleton gleaming with embedded technology, compound eyes refracting light in hypnotic patterns. Behind it stood shadowy representatives of 11 other species, each more alien than the last. "I am Vorketh, emissary of the hegemonic unity." The mantis clicked, its translator rendering the words in perfect English. "Your species has been evaluated and found wanting." Reyes straightened her spine, grateful for the microgravity that hid the trembling in her legs. "This is Admiral Elena Reyes of Earth's United Defense Fleet. State your intentions." Your species achieved faster than light travel, while still harboring barbaric tendencies. Vorketh continued, ignoring her introduction. "You fight amongst yourselves. You maintain individualized thought patterns resistant to consensus. You innovate without permission." The being's mandibles clicked in what the translation software interpreted as disapproval. "The hegemony has observed your kind for centuries. We know your weaknesses, your capabilities, your threats. You are too unpredictable, too independently minded." A holographic timer appeared above the alien delegation. 72:00. It began counting down. "You have 3 Earth rotations to surrender your species to hegemony protection," Vorketh announced. "Resistance will result in extinction." Reyes stepped forward, hands clasped behind her back to hide their clenching. "What have you done to our outposts?" The alien's compound eyes shifted, refracting light in patterns that made several bridge officers wince in pain. "A demonstration of both mercy and capability," Vorketh replied. With a gesture, the hologram expanded to show surveillance feeds of the missing outposts. Titan Observatory's personnel stood frozen in mid-motion, surrounded by a shimmering stasis field. Europa's underground colony, similarly immobilized. Mars, the same. They live for now. Their fate, all humanity's fate, depends on your compliance. "I need to consult with Earth's leadership," Reyes said, fighting to keep her voice neutral. "Grant me safe passage home." "Granted," Vorketh clicked. "We are not barbarians, Admiral." The hologram dissolved, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Set course for Earth, maximum burn," Reyes ordered, then lowered her voice, "and initialize Protocol Cassandra." As the Vigilance engines flared to life, the ship's AI began a deep scan of the transmission they'd just received. Hidden within the hegemony's message was a data packet, an oversight, or perhaps intentional intimidation. The AI decoded it while they accelerated toward home. "Admiral," the AI's voice was soft in her earpiece, "I found something. Classified hegemony intelligence. They're moving against us because of our recent quantum entanglement innovations. The report explicitly states that human unpredictability combined with our new communication technology poses an existential threat to hegemony information control." Reyes stared at the stars streaking past the view screen. The greatest armada in the galaxy was moving against Earth not from strength, but from fear. She allowed herself a grim smile. Perhaps there's hope after all. The United Defense Council chamber erupted into pandemonium, the moment Admiral Reyes finished her briefing. 53 representatives from Earth's unified nations shouted over one another, their voices echoing against the chamber's curved walls. Silence. General Santos slammed his palm against the central table. The room's acoustic dampeners kicked in, forcibly lowering all voices. This is not a debate. This is extinction mathematics. He gestured, and holographic projections filled the air above the table. Thousands of alien ships, each capable of sterilizing a continent. The hegemony's smallest scout vessel outguns our largest destroyer. Santos continued, his voice clipped with military precision. Conservative estimates put us at 200-to-1 disadvantages in ships, weaponry, and technological capability. Defense Minister Cheng adjusted her glasses. Can we evacuate hidden colonies beyond hegemony space? With what ships, Minister? Santos countered. Most of our long-range vessels are trapped in those stasis fields. We have 41 hours remaining to formulate a surrender that preserves some semblance of human autonomy. Admiral Reyes stood motionless by the projections, her flight suit still creased from the journey home, dark circles under her eyes. She scanned the room. Politicians, generals, scientists, all calculating the same impossible odds. A commotion at the chamber entrance drew everyone's attention. Security officers attempted to block a disheveled figure who pushed past them with surprising strength. Dr. Marcus Zhang stumbled into the council chamber, his hair wild, clothes rumpled as if he'd slept in them for days. One sock was blue, the other black. "You cannot surrender," he announced, his voice surprisingly commanding despite his appearance. General Santos frowned. "Dr. Zhang, this is a closed session. Your expertise in xenoanthropology, while valuable, isn't relevant to military." "I've been inside their systems for 7 years," Zhang interrupted, approaching the table. He reached up to his temple and pressed. A neural implant, illegal in most jurisdictions, glowed beneath his skin. The room's holographic systems stuttered, then flooded with new data. "You've been what?" Minister Cheng gasped. Zhang ignored her, manipulating the data streams with practiced gestures. The hegemony's 12 species evolved in perfect environments. No ice ages, no asteroid impacts, no forced adaptations. His fingers rearranged complex sociological models. Their apparent strength, rigid hierarchy, perfect technological symmetry, unified purpose, masks a critical vulnerability. The projection shifted to show biological data, neural mapping, decision matrices. "They've bred randomness out of their thinking," Zhang explained, his voice gaining confidence. "Every strategic decision follows pre-established parameters. Every technological development builds on precisely controlled predecessors." He pulled up hegemony battle simulations. "Look at their predictive models. They anticipate only 2 human responses: surrender or suicidal military resistance. Their entire strategy hinges on this binary." Admiral Reyes stepped closer, studying the data with narrowed eyes. "There's no third option in their simulations." "Precisely." Zhang nodded, a feverish intensity in his gaze. "They cannot conceptualize outside their established parameters. If we respond in a way their models cannot predict, we introduce chaos into their system." Reyes finished, understanding dawning. General Santos scoffed. "And how exactly do we respond to overwhelming force without fighting or surrendering? What magical third option exists?" The room fell silent as Admiral Reyes straightened, her expression hardening with decision. "We tell them they've sealed their own fate," she declared, her voice cutting through the silence. "We neither bow nor break. We simply deny their authority over us entirely." Zhang's eyes widened. "Yes," he whispered, "a declaration of existential independence." "That's suicide," Santos protested. Reyes turned to face the entire council. "No, that's humanity. We've spent our entire evolutionary history creating third options when faced with impossible choices. It's what they fear about us. and it's how we'll survive this. The hegemony capital ship Inevitable Dominance dwarfed Admiral Raya's diplomatic vessel like a star beside a planet. Through the viewport, she could see its crystalline superstructure refracting starlight into impossible patterns, a deliberate display of technological superiority. "Final approach, Admiral," Lieutenant Park announced, voice tight with tension. "Their docking protocols are extensive." Reyes nodded, straightening the formal white uniform specially designed for this meeting. "Just follow them precisely, Lieutenant. For now, we play by their rules." She felt the gentle shudder as their ship was captured by the hegemony's tractor systems. Human pilots no longer controlled their destiny, a not-so-subtle metaphor for what awaited humanity if she failed. Dr. Zhang's voice came through her discreet earpiece. "The neural disruptor is active, Admiral. They'll scan for weapons but won't detect the quantum entanglement transmitters. They're too integrated with your uniform's fabric. And if they strip-search me," she murmured. "Then we're all dead anyway," Zhang replied with surprising lightness. The airlock cycled open. Two hegemony guards, bipedal crystalline entities that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states, escorted her through corridors that periodically changed configuration, an intentional disorientation technique. They arrived at the council chamber, a vast spherical space with 12 raised platforms arranged in perfect geometric symmetry. On each platform stood representatives of the hegemony's ruling species, neural link indicators pulsing at their temples in perfect synchronization. The message was clear. They thought as one. At the chamber's center, suspended in a gravity field that rippled with controlled power, hovered the Archon, a luminescent being whose form constantly shifted between states of matter. Its neural link crown was more elaborate than the others, marking it as the nexus of the hegemony's shared consciousness. "Admiral Alina Rise of Earth," the Archon announced, its voice a harmonic chorus of 1,000 perfectly synchronized tones. "You arrive exactly when our models predicted." Reyes stepped forward, alone in this alien sanctum. The final human, perhaps, to speak with free will before these beings. "I come bearing humanity's response to your ultimatum," she stated, keeping her voice steady. Interest rippled through the neural links, the indicators pulsing faster. "Your surrender will be archived as the 7,823rd species to accept our benevolent authority," the Archon proclaimed. "The transition will be efficient. Within 3 generations, your offspring will scarcely remember independent thought." Rice took a deep breath, her hand brushing the almost imperceptible activation node hidden in her uniform seam. The quantum transmitters wove into the fabric awakened, linking to the network Zhang had prepared. "Humanity's response is this," she declared, her voice suddenly stronger. "You've sealed your own fate by threatening us." The synchronized breathing of the council faltered. Neural link indicators flickered erratically as their shared consciousness encountered an unanticipated response. "Clarify," demanded the Archon, actual confusion entering its harmonic voice. "Is this surrender?" Ray stepped closer to the center of the chamber. "Humanity does not recognize your authority to demand our surrender. We will continue to exist as we choose. We have no interest in your territories. But attack us, and you will face consequences beyond your comprehension." The Archon's luminescent form pulsed with what might have been anger. "Your species cannot survive without complying. The models are absolute." "Then your models are flawed," Rise replied calmly. "Humanity has always existed in the space between impossible choices." She raised her arm, revealing what appeared to be an ornamental cuff. "Before your security responds, you should know. This entire exchange is being broadcast via quantum entanglement to every inhabited world in your empire. The information monopoly you've maintained for millennia ends today." Sensors throughout the chamber detected something unprecedented spreading across the hegemony network. Uncertainty, the first crack in their perfect unity. Hegemony battle group entering Europa orbit. 47 capital ships. Weapons hot. The transmission reached Earth Central Command exactly 12 hours after Admiral Reyes' declaration, An optimal attack interval according to captured hegemony tactical doctrine. Dr. Zhang nodded grimly at the timing. Predictable to the minute. On the holographic display, the massive obsidian shards of hegemony warships emerged from fold space against Jupiter's swirling backdrop, their formation a perfect geometric pattern optimized for overwhelming force projection. Colonial Director Maya Osai watched the approaching armada from Europa's monitoring station, her dark eyes reflecting the emergency lighting that bathed the command center in crimson. She keyed her comm with steady fingers despite the evacuation order flashing on her screens. This is Director Osai. All personnel, execute thesis protocol. Authorization Omega-7 Delta. Throughout the colony, civilians and personnel moved with practiced precision toward subsurface bunkers. There was no panic. Every human on Europa had rehearsed this scenario monthly since the colony's establishment. Central Command confirms. Hegemony forces targeting all major habitat structures, her second-in-command reported. Their targeting solutions assume maximum population density in residential sectors. Maya nodded, watching the countdown on her wrist display. Right on schedule. The first hegemony landing craft breached Europa's thin atmosphere, weapon systems charging. Their sensors swept the colony's surface structures and detected nothing. No power signatures, no life signs, no resistance. Aboard the hegemony command vessel, the commander chittered in confusion to his neural-linked officers. Impossible, he hissed, compound eyes scanning the readouts. Our intelligence confirmed 15,000 humans stationed here. A subordinate's mandibles clicked nervously. Perhaps they fled when they detected our approach. With what ships? The commander retorted. We've monitored all orbital traffic for. An alert shrieked across their neural net. Massive energy spike detected beneath Europa's surface. The truth dawned too late. Humans hadn't just built on Europa. They'd rebuilt it from within. 200 meters beneath the ice crust, Maya Osei stood in a reinforced command bunker, surrounded by engineers and technicians at their stations. A three-dimensional map of Europa's interior glowed before her, highlighting the network of devices embedded throughout the moon's subsurface ocean. All gravimetric amplifiers report ready status, announced Chief Engineer Patel. Core pressure optimal. Maya's expression remained impassive as she gave the order they had hoped would never be necessary. Initiate thesis protocol. Across Europa, the quantum-locked gravimetric amplifiers activated in sequence, each feeding power to the next in a cascading array. The technology, the very same quantum manipulation the hegemony had feared humans developing, allowed precise control over gravitational fields at a localized level. Specifically, control over the pressure dynamics of Europa's vast subsurface ocean. On the surface, the first fissures appeared, hairline cracks in the ice spreading in mathematically precise patterns. The hegemony landing craft hovered in confusion, their sensors struggling to interpret the changing surface conditions. Then Europa's crust fractured along calculated fault lines, releasing pressurized water geysers that shot hundreds of kilometers into space. In the vacuum, the water instantly crystallized into jagged spears of ice, impaling hegemony ships with the precision of targeted weapons. Unexpected variable. Tactical reassessment required. The hegemony commander's neural link overloaded with conflicting data as his perfect formation disintegrated into chaos. Meanwhile, across the solar system, hundreds of civilian vessels suddenly emerged from hidden fold space pockets. Protocol diaspora launching thousands of human colonists toward stars the hegemony had deemed worthless. In the council chambers on Earth, Dr. Zhang displayed the tactical feed with cold satisfaction. The hegemony defines victory as territorial control, he explained to the assembled leaders. We define it as survival. We've been preparing to scatter since we first detected their probes 50 years ago. General Santos studied the Europa feed with newfound respect. We're not just fighting differently, he realized. We're redefining what victory means. Negative contact. Again. The hegemony commander's exoskeleton crackled with electrical discharge. a physiological manifestation of frustration his species had evolved to suppress millennia ago. 3 months into what hegemony propagandists called the human pacification, and what the rest of the galaxy now whispered as the Silent War, the mightiest battle fleet ever assembled was chasing ghosts. "This is the 5th human settlement to vanish before our arrival," his second-in-command noted, neural link pulsing with concern. "The coordination required to evacuate an entire colony within our detection window should be impossible for a primitive species." The commander's compound eyes shifted to the tactical display. The settlement on Proxima Centauri had shown normal activity just 26 hours earlier. Now only empty structures remained, power cores cold, no signs of hasty evacuation. It was as if the humans had simply chosen to disappear. Meanwhile, the stealth vessel Prometheus drifted within the corona of Proxima Centauri itself, a hiding place hegemony sensors considered impossibly hostile to organic life. Inside its heavily shielded bridge, Captain Lena Okafor monitored the hegemony fleet's movements, her dark features illuminated by the soft glow of tactical displays. "They're still following engagement protocol Delta 6, she observed to her executive officer. "Right on schedule." Commander Jin Park nodded, making a notation in his datapad. Dr. Zhang's predictive model remains accurate to within 98.7% certainty. They literally cannot deviate from established doctrine without consensus from the entire command council. Okafor allowed herself a small smile. And with their communication networks experiencing those mysterious disruptions, consensus is increasingly difficult to achieve, Park finished, especially since 3 of their council species have gone silent. The Prometheus itself shouldn't exist by hegemony understanding of physics. Its revolutionary quantum tunneling drive allowed it to slip between realities, bypassing conventional space in ways the hegemony's rigid technological development had never explored. The ship was technically too small to house an FTL drag by their understanding. Okafor studied the final mission briefing as the Prometheus prepared to jump. Their destination: the hegemony's sacred Nexus shipyards in the Arcturus system. 6 hours later, she gathered her tactical team in the briefing room. The holographic display showed detailed schematics of the shipyard's production systems, data stolen during previous infiltrations. "This isn't a sabotage mission," she announced, surprising most of her crew. "We won't destroy anything." Lieutenant Reed looked confused. "Then what's the objective, Captain?" Okafor expanded the hologram to show the shipyard's production templates, the quantum lock designs from which all hegemony vessels were manufactured. "We're going to make subtle modifications to their manufacturing systems," she explained. "Microscopic changes to their structural templates." Understanding dawned on Park's face. They'll build their own defeat. Every new vessel they construct will contain fatal flaws in their quantum stabilization systems, Okafor confirmed. Flaws that will only manifest when they attempt emergency maneuvers. 26 hours later, the infiltration team watched from a safe distance as the shipyard resumed production, new hegemony vessels taking shape with their fatal flaws, hidden within perfect-seeming structures. Meanwhile, across hegemony space, the disruption spread in ways no human could have orchestrated alone. On 12 worlds, beings who had never known individual choice observed humanity's resistance with growing fascination. On the oceanic world Laurentia, amphibious beings who had served as hegemony navigators for millennia quietly misdirected supply ships by mere fractions of degrees. Errors too small to trigger automated corrections, but sufficient to delay arrivals by crucial hours. In the mining complexes of Durtok, insectoid laborers accidentally included microscopic manufacturing defects in critical components, each imperfection too minor to detect in standard quality control, but collectively catastrophic under stress. As the Hegemony Command Council convened an emergency session, the Archean experienced a sensation completely absent from their evolutionary history: paranoia. Its luminescence flickered erratically as contradictory reports flooded in from across their territory. "Find these humans. it commanded, its harmonious voice fracturing into discordant tones. They're changing the rules of existence itself. The Archon's personal chamber, a space unseen by outsiders for 9 centuries, showed the first signs of disorder. Holographic displays flickered erratically, their perfect symmetry disrupted by contradictory data streams. The luminescent being drifted between consoles, its radiance dimming with each new report. 3 hegemony counselors had gone silent, their neural links severed without explanation. The Felveri, Terraxians, and Medusan Collective, 3 founding species of the 12-member hegemony, had ceased responding to consensus calls. Impossible. The Archon's voice shattered into discordant frequencies that caused the crystalline attendants to vibrate painfully. The neural consensus cannot be broken. The evolutionary imperative is absolute. A priority communication interrupted its tirade. The commander of the Proxima Centauri task force reported with uncharacteristic hesitation. "We have located the human settlement on Proxima, Eminence." "Then why have you not enacted the purification protocols?" the Archon demanded. The commander's neural link pulsed with distress. "The colony is protected. Energy signatures from the defensive systems are Soraxian." The implications cascaded through the Archon's consciousness like poison. Not merely neutrality, outright defection. Alliance with humans. "This cannot be," the Archon whispered to the empty chamber after terminating the communication. But the evidence mounted with each passing cycle. The perfect order of the hegemony, maintained for 20,000 years, was unraveling. Meanwhile, deep within an asteroid field at the edge of charted space, Admiral Reyes stepped through a heavily shielded airlock into a chamber unlike any in human experience. Representatives from 5 different subjugated species stood arranged in a rough circle, a formation that would have been considered chaotic heresy within hegemony space. A Tolari diplomat approached first, its translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns expressing complex emotions no neural link could standardize. "Admiral Reyes, we welcome the first official representative of humanity to this gathering." Reyes nodded, taking careful steps in the low gravity. "I come authorized to speak for Earth and all human colonies." A Vordax mining coordinator moved forward, its massive frame bearing scars from centuries of forced labor. For 10,000 cycles, the hegemony has claimed their rule was the natural order. That hierarchy and uniformity were evolutionary inevitabilities. Then we witnessed humans, supposedly primitive, refuse to choose between surrender and destruction, added a serpentine Norgal philosopher, its coils shifting in what Reyes recognized as agitation. "You created a third option. You made choice itself a weapon." Reyes looked around the chamber, seeing hope in alien expressions that humanity's xenolinguists were only beginning to interpret. "We did what our species has always done when faced with impossible choices," she explained. "We adapted." From an observation room, Dr. Zhang monitored the unprecedented summit through armored viewport panels. "This is the real victory," he explained to the Earth Command representatives flanking him. The hegemony built its empire on a single premise: that diversity is chaos, that uniformity is strength. On screen, data streamed from his ongoing analysis of hegemony communications. Every subjugated species still remembers what it meant to be free, to be unique. "We're not just fighting the hegemony, we're dismantling its philosophical foundation." In the chamber, the gathered representatives moved toward a central hub, a simple metallic sphere resting on a pedestal. One by one, they placed appendages upon its surface. "What are they doing?" asked General Santos, watching with fascination. "Something unprecedented in our galaxy for millennia," Zhang replied softly, "making a cooperative decision without neural coercion." The Tolari diplomat turned to Reyes. "Today we form the Galactic Concordat, not a new empire, but a covenant of free species. Will humanity join us as equals, not conquerors?" Reyes stepped forward and placed her hand on the sphere alongside the alien representatives. The simple gesture, Physical contact without dominance represented everything the hegemony could never understand about humanity's approach to existence. Dr. Zhang's hands trembled as he decrypted the final layer of data recovered from a hegemony archive vessel abandoned during a skirmish near Ta City. Captain Okafor stood behind him in the secure laboratory aboard the Prometheus, watching symbols cascade across holographic displays. "I spent 7 years trying to access these archives," Zhang murmured, eyes fixed on the decryption process. "The hegemony keeps these records isolated from their main networks. Whatever's here, they don't want even their own people to know." The final encryption layer dissolved. Both humans fell silent as the translation appeared. "This changes everything," Okafor whispered, her usual composure shattered. The files, genetic records dating back 30,000 years, revealed a truth more horrifying than anything they had imagined. The 12 hegemony species weren't natural evolutionary endpoints. They were engineered, and they weren't the engineers. Zhang scrolled through millennia of data with growing horror. A species known only as the architects seeded the galaxy with life, then manipulated the development of hundreds of worlds. The record showed systematic genetic modification across multiple species, all guided toward specific traits: neural compatibility, hierarchical instinct, and most disturbingly, diminished capacity for individual creativity. They created perfect subjects, Zhang realized aloud. Beings literally incapable of rebellion. Okafor pointed to a star map showing seeding patterns across the galaxy. But Earth isn't on any of these charts. Further analysis confirmed her observation. The Sol system appeared nowhere in the modification records. According to navigation logs, the architect's seeder ships had suffered a calculation error, missing Earth's sector entirely. Humanity had evolved without interference. Messy, contradictory, individually minded, resilient. "The hegemony fears us," Zhang concluded, "because we're what every species was meant to be before they were altered." Within hours, Earth Command authorized the dissemination of this revelation through the quantum communication network to all worlds in the Concordat. The reaction exceeded even Zhang's predictions. On hegemony capital worlds, beings who had never known discord experienced their first taste of rage, directed not at humans, but at their own masters. As revolution erupted across hegemony space, the Prometheus intercepted a high-priority transmission. Vorketh, the ambassador who had delivered the original ultimatum to humanity, requested extraction. Captain Okafor personally led the rescue mission, her team finding the mantis-like being's escape pod adrift near the contested Rigel system. Vorketh's exoskeleton was cracked and leaking fluid, neural link nodes forcibly removed from his carapace. "You were right." He clicked weakly as Okafor's medics stabilized him in the Prometheus's sickbay. "We sealed our fate when we threatened you, but not in the way any of us imagined." His compound eyes reflected the emergency lighting as he struggled to convey his warning. "The Archon has activated the Sundering Arc," he explained urgently. "A weapon designed by the architects themselves, capable of unraveling the quantum stability of an entire planetary system." Okafor felt cold dread settling in her stomach. "Target: Earth," Vorketh confirmed. "They intend to remove your homeworld from existence entirely, as if it never was. The hegemony would rather destroy the galaxy's cradle of natural evolution than face what we have become." Admiral Rice received the news during an emergency Concordat meeting. Without hesitation, she made the decision. A coalition fleet would intercept the weapon. The liberated species, many still learning to pilot ships without neural guidance, volunteered alongside human vessels. As the fleet assembled at the rallying point near Saturn, Rice studied the tactical display, showing allied ships of wildly different designs moving in beautiful disarray. A formation no hegemony admiral would ever approve, yet somehow perfect in its asymmetry. "We've always believed our greatest weakness was our divisiveness," she told the assembled commanders via quantum link. "But it turns out our chaotic nature, our stubborn individuality. These are the very traits the architects tried to breed out of the galaxy. Our supposed flaws are our greatest strength. A Xerexian commander's voice came through the link. Then we shall embrace chaos in the face of their perfect order. The rings of Saturn shimmered with unnatural light as the hegemony's remaining loyal fleet, still hundreds of vessels strong, escorted the sundering arc into the solar system. The arc itself defied comprehension, a perfect sphere of what appeared to be liquid darkness, suspended within a lattice of impossible geometries that hurt the human eye to observe directly. Admiral Rice stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship Defiance, her expression grim as the coalition fleet moved to intercept. On tactical displays, human vessels fought alongside ships of 5 liberated species, their seemingly chaotic formation incomprehensible to hegemony predictive algorithms. "They're scanning us," Lieutenant Park reported, attempting to identify command structure and attack vectors. Rice nodded. "Let them look. They won't find what they expect." She keyed her comm. "All vessels, commence Operation Hubris." The battle erupted across Saturn's orbit, a kaleidoscope of weapons fire and desperate maneuvers. Coalition forces fought with unpredictable brilliance, each species contributing tactics the hegemony had never encountered. Polari ships phased partially out of normal space. Vortex mining vessels weaponized gravitational slingshots. Human craft executed maneuvers that sacrificed structural integrity for positioning, accepting damage that hegemony doctrine considered unacceptable. Yet the sundering arc continued its inexorable advance, untouched by conventional weapons, escorted by the Archon's personal guard of crystalline battleships. In a shielded laboratory aboard the Defiance, Dr. Zhang worked frantically, analyzing data streams from the arc as the battle raged. Vorketh stood beside him, providing context for the readings that human instruments struggled to interpret. "These energy signatures," Zhang muttered, "they're not technological. They're organic." Vorketh's mandibles clicked in affirmation. The truth was hidden even from the Hegemony Council. The arc isn't merely a weapon. It's alive. Zhang's eyes widened with sudden understanding. It's not technology. It's a being. An ancient consciousness enslaved by the architects, forced to destroy for millennia against its will. Across the battlefield, Captain O'Keffer's Prometheus, its stealth systems failing under concentrated fire, executed an impossible maneuver, plunging through the heart of the hegemony formation to deliver a quantum communications array directly onto the arc's surface. The Prometheus emerged with catastrophic damage, but the mission was accomplished. Zhang established connection through the array as the battle reached its crescendo. Through the quantum link, Rise addressed the entity directly, not with threats or demands, but with something it had never experienced in its long existence: recognition of its sentience. "For thousands of years, they've used you as a weapon," Rise transmitted, her ship shuddering under enemy fire. "They never asked what you wanted. I am asking now. Freedom isn't just humanity's right. It belongs to all conscious beings." For 67 seconds, there was no response. The hegemony fleet pressed its advantage, believing victory imminent. Then the arc spoke, its voice resonating directly through the neural networks of all present ships. "In all my existence, no being has offered me choice." The arc's surface rippled, its perfect symmetry dissolving into beautiful, unpredictable patterns. "I choose to end this cycle." The arc turned on its hegemony escorts, neutralizing their systems without destruction. Weapon systems powered down. Engines failed. The once mighty armada drifted helplessly as the arc addressed all forces. The age of control is over. 1 year later, representatives from 47 species gathered in a massive crystalline dome constructed on Earth's moon, neutral ground for the newly formed Galactic Concordat. The dome's architecture was deliberately asymmetrical, celebrating the beauty of difference. Admiral Rice, now serving as Earth's representative, stood beside the entity once known as the Sundering Arc, now calling itself Renaissance. Its new form was a constantly shifting cloud of luminescent particles that coalesced periodically into different shapes, as if exploring the possibilities of existence. As the ceremony concluded with the signing of the Concordat Charter, Vorkath approached Rais. His exoskeleton had been modified, neural control nodes removed, his movements now showing subtle individuality. "When you declared that we had sealed our own fate," he asked, mandibles clicking with newfound expressiveness, "was this what you envisioned?" Rais watched as representatives of once enemy species engaged in passionate debate about the Concordat's first initiatives. Messy, contradictory, gloriously alive with possibility.